Now on the correct stream. I think. I need to text people on the other stream that I've just deleted and say, hey, we've moved. But I can't now because it's gone. Okay, fine. It says 11 watching here. It doesn't say that on my other stream. There we go. To text people on the other. It's showing up on here when I click on the multi-stream chat. Okay, I'm just going to have to keep the YouTube chat open because the multi-stream chat is now not showing me anything on here. There we go. It's alive. It is. Streamception. I think... It was open in a... I had it open in several browsers. And it was just like, it's time to rock out. Is there a way I can make this larger? That's better. That would do for now. So the main issue I felt with this last time, I'm gonna be the hover chair, but it just felt like more of a level design issue, and we discussed this at length in the Discord as well, but it just felt like... It felt like the level was so full of things to bump into that it stopped really functioning as a racing track in places, and I still... There's still so much in the middle of the track. And I get that that's part of the theme of making it zany and stuff, but it also just sort of makes it hard to see where the golden path is, and that is... A racing game is about, like, how well you can control your vehicle to follow the golden path. And there's so many options in the middle of the track on this of, like, do I go around this to the left or the right, that it sort of... I don't know... The racing games that do that tend to be like extreme sports ones, like snowboarding games, and those are focused more on performing tricks in the environment rather than just racing. But hey, I'm in first place, so that's a good start. I never do very well at this game. It says there's some new option to make them faster, but I'm not sure what that is. Okay, the hover chair felt a lot easier. Let's try the generic chair. It feels okay to play. There's a couple of things here. So I'll give my advice as if I've never played this game first, right? I'll give my advice as if I've never played this game before, and I've played it like 4 times now, 4 or 5 times. And then I will give some general feedback on the project. So if you've never seen me play this game or give feedback, ignore whether I've said this before, but for me playing it just now, the camera is too close in. I do not get enough context of the track. There is still too much stuff in the middle of the track, which means there is no golden path, which means it doesn't feel like a classic racing game. It's okay to have path choice in a racing game, but you'll find that the games that do that tend to be games with combat or games with tricks. So things like 1080 snowboarding, things like Mario Kart and stuff like that, where you can go a secret way and then, you know, maybe you can take a shortcut. The track choices at the moment are like, do I go left or right around this obstacle that's in the middle of the track? We can't see far enough ahead. I know that seems like a design decision because they haven't changed it so far, and I've complained about it every single time. A lot of the pickups make you go in the wrong direction. So it's like, oh, I pick up those shoes, but I've got to go at a 90-degree angle away from the track to pick them up. And the other thing I think it could do with is when you go over rugs and stuff you're not supposed to go over, a bit of screen shake just to like ramp up the feeling of like this is a bad thing you're not supposed to do. If this was my project, what I would be doing is focusing on making it feel worse when you hit things or go over things that you're not supposed to, but also making it harder to do that because you've still got too many things in the middle of the track. I understand that the theming of this is supposed to be chaotic. It's supposed to be a real-world domestic place. That's why there's stuff in the middle of the track. But it just feels like it gets in the way of it being a racing game. And I talked about this last time. There are 2 things working against it being a good racing game. One is the camera is too close in. And I understand that's difficult with pixel art because you basically either have to have it at this level of zoom or like 100% zoomed out. I think 100% zoomed out is probably still going to be better in this case. And now onto the broader project stuff. Like, if you're watching this for the first time and you think this game looks like something for you, please do go and play it. Give Bucketful Games some feedback on what you think on this. The developer's been really good at submitting this for feedback and stuff like that and updating it and adding content. But the last few times I've seen this game, the changes have not been big or sweeping enough. And to me, what that suggests is the developer is really attached to a particular vision of what this game is, and they're not really taking on board the core issues that people have. Last time I said basically the same feedback, and I'm repeating myself now. And I'm repeating myself now because the issues that were issues then are still issues now. It doesn't feel like I can look for and learn a golden path through the level. And a straight racing game, which is just racing, whether it's behind the car or top down, is about mastering the feel of your vehicle and the layout of the level so that you can golden path around it. There are just too many points where there's stuff in the middle of the track and there's no clear visual route through the level. You know, if it was a racetrack, there would be like a rough side of the track that you can see you're not supposed to veer onto. I think your things like rugs and obstacles should be that. They shouldn't be things in the middle of the track. They should be around the edge. And I don't feel like the feedback I gave last time has really been taken on board. And hey, I'm just one person. I'm going to give the same feedback each time because my view on this stuff isn't going to change. I don't play a lot of racing games, but if I play a racing game and it feels like the game is trolling me by putting things in the middle of the track all the time, that's not funny to me. That's not amusing. It's not an interesting test of my skills, especially when I can't see far enough ahead to see it coming. It feels like some of the design of this is a little bit trollish, and it's just based on trying to like gotcha the player rather than provide them with an interesting thing to drive around. I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it's Sid Meier. I can attribute. Someone get to this quote before me. There's a... Who said this? There is a quote that is like, who is having the fun? Is it the game designer? Is it the player? Or is it the game? I can't remember who said this. It might be Sid Meier. It's a very, very old quote about game design. This feels like a project where the game developer is having a lot of fun thinking about like how they're going to get the player and what they're going to put in the way. And the player probably wants something much simpler. Right, it does say there is a super turbo and ultra turbo option. Is that not in the web build? Am I playing the old web build? Because if you've got like an update down here and it doesn't match up with the web build that's in the browser, that's not great. Because I didn't see these turbo options. But also, I don't think just making the whole game faster is gonna, you know, I previously said. Here we go. Yeah, I can't see the turbo modes, and I think maybe it's because this version hasn't been updated. So let me give the download a quick look. But I do think the problem with the you know, I talked about the Wii factor of like how much of the time in the game are you just going Wii, which is what the sensation that people want out of a racing game. And you don't resolve that by making the game faster. You resolve that by making the track less cluttered. And I don't think just making everything faster is actually a fix for the problem I identified last time. There might be other fixes, but I don't think the speed of the vehicles was actually the issue. There was a turbo option. Where is the turbo option? So. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, the turbo was on already. Let's put it on Ultra and just give it one go on Ultra. But again, I think the track layouts are the problem. I don't think the baseline speed of the vehicles is the problem. Yeah, this kind of anti-aliased... Oh, sorry, I didn't. 1 second. There we go. Okay, I'll play it in the web again. There are certain game engines that just really don't like playing nicely with streaming software. We will get that fixed. Okay, so we know that the Ultra version was on the web version. I just couldn't see it in the menu. So yeah, I mean, the kind of smaller increments and not making sweeping changes is going to depend on where you are in the process. But also, I don't think going through the level and removing all the stuff in the middle of the levels is a massive change. It's just one that you have to be willing to make, and I don't think the developer is willing to do that because they have a specific idea of what their game is. And I think their idea of what their game is doesn't align with what I think I want from a racing game at all, which is to be trolled by tracks where there's loads of stuff in the way all the time. That bit's good. The chicane made out of the... There's like a chicane made out of 2 bits of carpet. See, the speed feels good, but again, we're just a bit too fast, but a bit too close in for it to work. So, I don't like the bits where there are so many multiple paths through the environment. I like that bit. That is the... This bit is the approach I would like to see the whole track take. You know, you use the rugs as like a domestic piece of domestic obstacle to get in people's way, but it is in a way that makes a traditional track rather than a way that gets in the middle of the track and then doesn't feel like a track anymore, you know? That bit there, that chicane, that little S shape, this bit, that is how I would like to see the level design throughout. You can have bookcases jutting out, but it shouldn't give you like the option to go round them either way. I would try and... What I would really like is a map of this level. Let me just draw a sketch quickly, because you're basically giving people loads and loads of decisions. And a racing game isn't about making decisions, it's about using your reactions. And I think you're just sort of fighting very hard with people's expectations, people's needs from a certain type of game. And you can have decision points in a race, and you can have like multiple paths, but it's just constant. It's all the way around. And I really think it's a level design problem. So at the moment, the way that the level works, and I can't map it out exactly. Let me just get some sort of pen tool. Come on, Canva, you can do it. So the way that the level works, it's like you go around a level, and if you imagine that's the track, and then every room has multiple paths through it. Like there's like loads and loads of decision points through the track about which way you're going to go. And that is because in each of these rooms, that's our start. In each of these rooms, you go into the room, and then you're kind of coming in, and then there's like a bookcase here, and there's a thing here, and a thing here, and there's no clear way you're supposed to go, right? And that's maybe okay to do as a special area of a level. Mario Kart does this. It's special areas of a level, but it doesn't do it consecutively all the way around the track at every point, right? So what I would be looking to do with this game is to have a much more straight racetrack that doesn't have all these decision points, and then maybe have like 1 or 2 places in the game where you get to choose which way to go. And when I say which way to go, it can be as simple as like there's a bookcase in the middle or something like that. And then all of these other places, like that section we saw where you had a bit of carpet jutting out and another bit of carpet and you had to zigzag through it, that's great because that's using your kind of domestic environment of rugs as a traditional racetrack, but you can look at it and you see what you need to do and you navigate it. And then that's testing my reactions. It's not testing my decision making. And that is what you want most of the way around a racetrack. You don't want it to be about making decisions. You want it to be about reacting and handling the vehicle. It would also be great if going over these didn't just slow you down, but did some kind of screen shake and something that felt... Because the whole point of screen shake and feedback sound effects is to kind of give the player a sense of the pain of the character, right? This is a bad thing, you shouldn't be doing it. So when we go onto these carpets, it should go and feel really bad, right? Lots more of these bits. Lots more of these bits where the obstacles like the bookcases or bits of the kitchen are sticking out and you go round them and you can't go both ways. You have to golden path through it. And there's no other option. And you either hit a thing and bounce back or you roll over the thing slowly. But much less of these spaces where you go into it and it's like there's a thing here, there's a thing here, and you can go around that way, you can go around that way. You can do that like once or maybe twice in a track, but I don't think this should be your default thing that you're doing across all of the tracks everywhere. This is basically what I said last time. Maybe I should have gone into more detail, but the issue of not being able to just go wee around the track is not just a matter of making the cars faster or the chairs faster. It is a matter of you are breaking the player's focus on the feel of driving and making those little micro judgments about steering, and you are putting their focus onto deciding which way to go, which again, if you look at all the games that do that, they tend to be combat racing games like Twisted Metal or Mario Kart, or they are trick games like downhill extreme sports games and stuff like that, where the emphasis is less on how well can you ride the track and more on can you find things to do tricks on. And you don't have those elements. So if you don't have those elements, you need to focus on just being a better pure racing game. And I think you know, the camera is another issue. I would still like to see at least an attempt at trying the camera 100% zoomed out, just seeing how people get on with it. But it just feels like a lot of these issues are stemming from like a deeper desire to keep the game very close to what it already is and not change it too much. And I don't know, I just feel like it's not succeeding enough as a racing game, and if you want to address that, you need to make bigger sweeping changes. And some of the changes I'm talking about aren't a lot of work. It's not a lot of work to go through the level and take out all the things that are in the middle of the track, or push them over to one side so that they are, you know, forming chicanes rather than bollards in the middle of the track. It just takes a kind of willingness to admit that maybe that's worth trying. So yeah, I don't know. I think that one's in a weird place. I still think it's an incredibly charming game. I really like the art style. I think the menus could do with a bit more readability. I think the way the pixel font is handled in the menus makes it really hard to kind of read, and that's probably why I couldn't find things. But yeah, I think there's just a deeper sort of production problem there with being willing to still make bigger changes to the game. Let's check out Firewall. What's this README going to tell me? There's a README that's got nothing in it. Okay, that was good. I like an M2 README. That means I don't have to do any reading. Let's see what this is. Have I got any notes on Firewall? Is it appealing? Does it look good? I had a lot of doubts regarding pixel art tower defense, and I feel graphical skills are my weakest area. Okay. Are the unique... What about the unique mechanics? Compete for controlling towers, circuits that can be bought to have more place for towers, and resource management. Are those unique enough but not too weird? That's always the question. What's the balance of these things? Okay, we're moving the camera with WASD. We're zooming with Q and E. We've got, okay, middle mouse button for panning. Ooh, look at this. Okay. It's zooming pretty nicely for pixel art. We've got... I think this looks pretty charming. We're doing tower defense with circuitry. These have a flashy thing on, so I'm guessing that's what I can click on. We've got some bigger things that have a bar on, and then we've got these blue and green nodes, and we've got start wave down here. So it seems pretty self-explanatory. Compute 20. Okay. What's here? Kit Ray QSR. Oh my goodness, this is going to hurt my brain. Okay, we're going to put a sniper on there with a big range to make the most out of that corner. And then we've got a laser and a ray. That's going to be too close together for each other, but for people conceptually, I think. But let's find out. How much do things cost? Is that the little green thing? Okay, that's up there. That is basically $1. So I think that's good because we're sort of not making everything a weird techie thing. Sometimes $1 is just $1. Okay, the stuff comes in on the 3 tracks. That's neat. And it looks like there might be some crossover points. I don't know if those bars across the track do anything. They look like they maybe should do something, or... like, what does this line have to do with this tower point? This works quite well for me. I could see how you could have like a sort of generative chip tune music with this. Like a bunch of, well, maybe just 4 layers of chip tune and then like fade things in and out depending on what's happening, you know? That could be quite fun. It reminds me, I mean, it's a tower defense, but visually it kind of looks like some of the Zachtronics games where they have a sort of techie setting. I didn't build enough on the first round. Can I restart? Okay, we need a quick way to restart, even for like a playtest like this. Okay, the connection point is where you calculate range from. Okay, that's interesting. And these are both joining in there. So it's kind of like they zap down the line and then along the track kind of thing. Okay, so I can only build on these lit up ones and I can't build on these ones. It feels like a lot of the visual design here is very clear already. I might even go like one step further here just to make sure these look dormant. Desaturate the blue and green in the middle of these, because at the moment that's still quite eye-catching. If anything, I mean, you've got the arrows on these, right, which push them up the information hierarchy and make them more like, hey, look at this. This is important. But this is still quite high contrast, like the green and the green and the grey. So I would just desaturate this color in the middle a little bit so it's less pointed, because I keep clicking on these and thinking that I can do something with them and I can't yet. What do these do? Right, these give me more money or more compute. And these give me more compute. I don't know what compute does. So I'm going to get one of each of these little nodes. I think the whole premise here is very appealing. A quasar laser, a ray, and a Kitex snipe. I don't fully understand all of the theming, but yeah, there's no sound in the game yet. It's quite an early prototype, doesn't have any sound. I also wonder if it might be good to have some of the attacks actually running along these lines. Ah, what just happened there? Okay. You turn it on and then you get these. You turn it off and you get these things. I'm not sure that makes sense to me. So you need to... Okay, I'm going to start again because I'm dying. And that's kind of a thing. Yeah, if the cross points are relevant to the gameplay, it would be cool to see something happening with them. Like some of the weapons, instead of them doing a laser, you'd expect they kind of shoot along there. I think you're going in a Tron direction already, and the fantasy of this is very Tron. So I think maybe like, you know, darkening the grid and having a lot of the attacks happening along the grid would kind of give you the kind of Tron fantasy a bit more. So if I turn these off, I get less of this compute, but I get access to build all of these. So I'm going to do quasars on each of those, an array there. And then more quasars over here. And a money thing over here. Yeah, I don't quite understand the compute resource. Ah, you turn it on. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, it didn't look like it was off. This is circuit core. Thanks, Trajan. This is circuit core. It provides compute units for the whole circuit. Click on socket to build defense. You can build utility chips in green. Okay. There we go. We're doing a bit better now. One thing I would bake into this very early so that you can iterate faster. Have a master balancing variable for how much things cost. So you can set their relative costs, but then you can also multiply it by 0.5 or 2 or 3 or whatever and speed the entire game progression up or down. Because then you can test it a lot quicker and you can give people an easier version. You can think, well, you know, I'm playing the game okay. Other people aren't going to be as you know, knowledgeable as me about how this game works, so I'll give them the version where everything costs 0.5, and then your playtesting is sort of on a parity with your own skill level a little bit. So having like one master variable where you can very easily change the overall difficulty can be quite good, even at the playtesting level, because your playtesters are going to be less familiar with the game than you, and you don't want to give them like the version you're used to playing that will be too hard. Excellent, cool. Yeah, getting it data driven as early as possible with something like this. If you're feeling if you're feeling serious about it, then getting it data driven early makes a lot of sense. Right, let's put some. I can't afford a money thing. I can't afford anything. Okay. See, that's one of my least favorite scenarios in any kind of turn-based or wave-based game, is sitting there thinking through what I'm going to do next when I'm actually out of the resource that allows me to do anything. I talked about this with the Spore Bloom game like last week or the week before. If you've got like the cheapest thing on the board can't be afforded, then flash this red. And that'll mean your player's never like sitting there going, oh, what should I do for like 5 minutes? And then they look up and they can't actually afford anything. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I like the aesthetic. It reminds me of like there's a couple of Zachtronics games that have this inside a computer. What's the red and black one? Is it Hexapunks or something? It feels like a kind of more light version of one of those, because you're taking the theming of a programming game, but it is still pretty much a classic tower defense. I don't think you've done too much weird stuff here, but I would really like to see these grid lines become a bit more important, you know, like the things shoot along there, and then you're really kind of playing into how the world works in things like Tron as well, where it's like the grid is everything. You know, you can't go across the grid or over the grid because we're in computer land and everyone obeys the grid. It's like the religion of computer land. I think that's what it's called in Tron. Computer land. Uh-oh. We've got some naughty lads coming in. Look at them. Some bad packets. I mean, because you're potentially playing with the idea of viruses and stuff, that gives you a lot of leeway to do things like have these guys self-replicate and do stuff like that as well. It's pretty much just a kind of classic tower defense. It's just you've got so many lanes. But yeah, I would love a sort of... Hang on, let's put the Tron music on. I always get struck on these anyway. I always get copyright struck on these anyway, so we may as well just... Oh, actually, no. I'll go my music library or my synth tense cyberpunk synth ambient. See what's on here. There we go. It works pretty well already. That's kind of like FTL kind of territory. The only problem is with and this may just be a sort of OCD autistic brain thing, but when you've got a very symmetrical level like this, I have a tendency to want to just build everything opposite from its counterpart. Even though there's no real reason to do. I mean, I guess there is a reason to do it in the sense that like the waves of enemies aren't giving me any practical reason to not mirror my level, but I went asymmetrical here. Let it be known. Oh, that's got a CPU on that side. We're inverting the pattern on this side. It's good to hear you talk about Kingdom Rush as well, because I think Kingdom Rush is still the gold standard. I really liked Repel the Rifts. I don't know if the dev is in today. The Repel the Rifts dev is in our Discord. Repel the Rifts is like a tower defense where you gradually build out the track and it gets longer and longer, and that is pretty good. It was a little bit too close to Into the Breach in the art style in places, but I always think about music very, very early on because it's a big part of the experience. I mean, as soon as you understand what the art style and the fantasy of your game is, you should have a good idea of what sort of music fits that anyway. Yeah, I mean, I do things like I work to the music that I would intend to be in the game. So, like, if I'm making a spooky Victorian horror game, I'll put spooky Victorian horror music on the whole time I'm making it. And that does two things, because it helps me imagine what the game is going to feel like when someone is playing it with the end music. And it also helps me to nail down the specifics of that thing, because, like, you could say, oh, I want synthwave music for this game, but there's still different types of synthwave, right? There's very hard synthwave like Carpenter Brute, and then there's, like, softer, more ambient stuff like that, what I've just put on. Don't quite understand. So you have to build, you build the yellow things to get the resource to unlock the other areas of the board. So I think what would be good would be if there were more of these and it was broken up into more sections. So maybe this one is like in 2 parts. And maybe they're irregular as well, so it's not all symmetrical. So maybe there's like, you know, I think the symmetrical levels are making it less interesting than it could be, because you just build the same thing on both sides. I think maybe it could be broken up into more parts. And I think making this look even more kind of dim and grey and not there yet. Like these lines here should be dimmed because they're not active yet. These should maybe be half transparent. Making it look like an area of the board is really dead until you unlock it. Because it lights up, right? And now it's come alive. But I think we could make that transition more extreme, and it would help people to understand the mechanic, and it would be more exciting when you unlock one. But it's definitely passing the baseline test of a tower defense, which is like, is it Moorish? Do I want to play it again as soon as I start failing it? Yes. Yeah. And I think it would be interesting to see how thematically you deal with additional towers later on, or like, what is the upgrade path? Because I think Kingdom Rush... What's the upgrade? Is there a graphic of that we can find somewhere? Let me see. Kingdom Rush tower upgrade path. You know, if we think back to the last game, this is kind of like, are you delivering on the core of what people expect from that type of genre? This is already, yeah, we're in a good place to make a good tower defense with this game. It's kind of quite Moorish. The art looks nice. I wouldn't even, like, I don't even really read this as pixel art. I know it is, but the sort of people that don't like pixel art won't really recognize this as pixel art because it's not got characters in it. It's not depicting any real objects. It's just an interface. This is very appealing. I would think about ways to dim certain areas of the game and grey them out, or go to like a sort of more shadowy blue for certain areas that are less a point of focus. And but yeah, the visual style is really nice, and I could see how you can adapt these and add more variety. The kind of constraint of having them all in these chips is going to make it hard to tell them apart when you've got lots and lots. So you might want to allow yourself to make some of them into like a, you know, some of them are an octagon and stuff, and they all look like they still fit into the same module, but they have a different silhouette, because the game's going to become quite hard to read if everything is white and blue. And like all of the lasers are like the same colors and they're all exactly the same shape. But that's not a difficult problem to have, because that's like a, I don't know, I think doing that kind of visual design and designing what lots of different turrets look like is a fun part of doing this sort of thing. Is that all of the main towers that you have in Kingdom Rush? Arrows, soldiers, magic, boulders, lightning, and whatever this is. But they branch off, don't they? I think you upgrade them and then they branch off in different ways. So yeah, it becomes too... I really like that upgrade path in Kingdom Rush, because instead of loads of little piddly, like loads of little tiny upgrades, it's like, no, you get a big choice. And that choice, you're going to look at the map and you're going to go, okay, this is here, so maybe it's better to have the AoE damage than the quicker rate of fire or whatever. It's a meaningful choice, and it's quite a big chunky choice. So I think if you want to stick to this idea of having like relatively minimalistic techie stuff, you might want to go more down that route of like, you have less base towers but they evolve, you know? Yeah. And having, I think it kind of fits people's fantasy of being some sort of tech wizard, to have a thing and keep modifying it and augmenting it and upgrading it, rather than to have like 12 things and pick which one to put in, right? So it fits with your Tron, Grid, Matrix, Neuromancer, every other thing that I can think of that fits that category. To have like, to put a thing in and then go, oh, we've got to upgrade it to the 2000 version, that's a lot more in line with like hacker fantasy than just like picking from a menu of 12 things and then it stays there and doesn't upgrade or do anything else. Yeah, cool. Really interested to see where that one goes. It's definitely kind of already ticking some of the first thing you want to prove to yourself with a prototype is like, can I do this sort of game? You've got a stage of prototyping later on, which is like, do people find my game fun? But even before that, there's a stage of prototyping that is not really game design prototyping. It's more feasibility testing of like, can I do this thing? And I think that one kind of lets you know that you are set up to make a bigger version of that game if you want to. You know, if you're working on that and it's going in the right direction, you're enjoying it, you're finding it easy to kind of iterate on and keep going with, and that's a good sign. No blink allowed. Let's check this out. I've got let's see if I've got a note on this. This is a really early prototype, proof of concept of an arcade-ish incremental. Okay, 5 to 10 minutes to max out the skill tree. I like the idea of arcade games mixed with incremental mechanics. That is appealing to me because it means you can take a very arcadey, Tetrisy type thing and give it a like longer sense of progression of like, okay, I played this game, I die after 3 minutes, but something has gone up and that plays into some little economic game. I like that. This has had 7,000 browser plays in 12 days, half on itch, half on incremental database, where it sits at the top, popular for a week, and recently 10 in highest rated. I'm working on the art direction for now, some old physical computer thing, and I'd love to have your point of view of where to go with that prototype. Okay, so we're doing people like this game already. They're already playing it. We're now going into like full production mode where it's like, what is the final form of this game? What do we want it to look and feel like? And yeah, maybe it's going to be a similar thing to the last game. We're going to do a computery thing. Okay. We're doing bets. Okay. So I put 10 down and I got 40 because I got it close to 0. Is that how it works? Okay. Okay, if I get the time less than 0.4, I'm okay. If the time is less than 0.3, it doubles my bet, and I have to get less than 0.4. Okay. So 0.3 is the real target, and 0.4 is kind of okay. I wonder, are you cheating? Are you cheating to the player's benefit a little bit and like snapping the number to 0 if it's very, very close? Because if you are, that makes absolute sense, and that is what I would do with a game like this. If not, then I'm incredibly skilled, and everyone should clap. So if you're watching at home, if you're listening in the workplace with headphones on, and I don't care where you are, you need to clap because I just got it exactly on 0. Applaud, scream, barf, do a lap of honor. Oh, I got too cocky. Let's try again. I know I should do an upgrade, but I just like doing the main thing. Ah! Ah, okay, we're upgrading the threshold so that we've got more leeway. I can't... I can pan up there. So what did that do? Add a small bet with 25 value. Add 1 free coin to each bet. Not super clear when these have upgraded. I like the music. You've got like Balatro background. You got chill hop. I understand where you're coming from with making it grey, because the idea is that then you can get a big contrast between the grey and the colourful. Some of the graphic design, it's just like these don't look very inspiring. But I think a lot of this game is just going to come down to like making all the typography look nice. Okay, we'll do the bet of 27. Oh yeah. Can I afford an upgrade? Add a multiplier to all thresholds. Trigger perfect stop even after succeeding after a 2,000th of a second. I like... So, one of the things that I already like about this, and it's probably the reason people are finding it so compelling, is it plays with scale at a way that people aren't used to engaging with it. And I think that's why people... So people like, you know, it's kind of a truism now to say, oh, people like it when a number goes up. Oh, numbers, blah, blah, blah. But actually playing with really, really tiny numbers is quite novel. We don't see many games where there's like a time challenge and it's how small can you get this time gap. So seeing, like, even just dealing with the idea of a thousandth of a second, that still hurts my brain a little bit when I am programming and stuff. So I can understand why a regular gamer would find that compelling. So my strategy now is to hold the mouse down and release it when I want to. Yeah, okay. That feels better. I'm gonna get emails next week. I clapped in the office while listening to your stream and I got fired. Please help me find a new job. Yeah, this is really compelling. It's sort of reminding me of like the load screens in Hotline Miami. There's something about the sort of... The music is quite dreamy, and even though it's very repetitive, it works okay because it's got that kind of like dreamy tropical island kind of vibe. I think if you wanted to try a color direction without making it too in your face, because I feel like you're trying to create like a relaxing atmosphere with this, you could do like a deep purple, because purple is the darkest color at its purest. You have like a in all of the colors, like yellow is the lightest color when it's its purest, and purple is the darkest if it's sort of indigo-y type deep purple, like a Cadbury purple. Then, because the music kind of has this sort of like smooth kind of pimpy kind of vibe to it. So if you kind of went like luxurious dark purple, I think that could work quite well. And then it will make all your yellow coins pop as well. Right, I'm gonna just take a little nose around the upgrade tree, because I think a lot of the direction you're already doing with the machine here makes sense, because it's a betting machine. It should feel maybe like a kind of Vegas betting machine, but you've also got this kind of smooth trip hop thing. So if you were like, what's the purple drank version of a betting machine, you know? So what have we got? Add a new threshold at 2 seconds. Okay. Ah, that's good. 4 times multiplier if we get it even closer to 0. I like the upgrades. You've already got quite a lot of interesting upgrades here. I think this menu could be a little more intuitive. So they go red when you can't afford them. You can buy things more than once, but you can't see that until you go onto them. It says like 1 out of 5. I think there might be a better way to communicate that, like having little pips in them that fill up. This is quite intriguing. That there's already an interesting set of upgrades here that are interesting to think about as you choose them. I think the states of these buttons could be a bit clearer. Okay, we've upgraded. We can now score. Yes, that was my lower threshold. So previously we had the 0.4 and the 0.3. I've added 3 onto those, so it's 0.43 and 0.33, and we've also added the lower threshold that starts with 2. One thing I would say is the payouts don't feel like they're increasing that much, and I think I mean, people are already playing it, so, you know, what can we say? But I think it would be good if the payouts felt like they sped up a little bit quicker. That was better. I mean, this is the first... We've got above 100 in 2 rolls. So it is speeding up. Oh. At 120 BPM is going to feel frantic if it's like... the 120, 130, 140 BPM range of music is really strange because it can sound very fast or very slow depending on how many snares there are, basically. Like dubstep is 130 and dubstep can feel quite downbeat. But you can also have a breakbeat at 130, which has the snares twice as often as dubstep. But I think this music works very well for what it is. I think if you wanted to go really deluxe with this, you could play around with effects on the music and stuff, like doing stuff while the button is depressed, and then when you release it, it changes the effect and stuff like that. Getting this centered as well. At the moment it's over to the right and it feels like it needs to just come over so it's right in the middle. It feels more like it's centered around the decimal point and the whole thing needs to just shift over so that it starts here and it takes up this space. That's cool. I really like that. I mean, I feel like the obvious creative direction for it is to make the buttons and these upgrade things into slightly 3D looking, almost like plastic jewels, like the ones you'd get on a slot machine, just so everything feels a bit kind of chunkier and juicier and like depress them in when you push them. I think the music direction is actually pretty great. I think if you went with like a deep purple background, it would make it feel sort of luxurious. And then you could also... It's very easy to go from purple to red, so you can have a purple background for most of the game, and then when the player messes up and gets it wrong, you could slide that over to red and then back to purple again when you want it to be relaxing again very easily. The kind of like smooth trip hop thing I think works very well. You could do some audio effects so that, you know, when it's counting down, if you're holding down on if you're clicking and holding, it applies a filter and like dips the sound out. I've just got that on the brain because I've been doing that all week, and I think it's a really neat, cheap effect for making music feel more impactful. You know, like someone's holding something in the game, and then when they release it, the music sort of comes back up. Yeah, that's cool. That's already very, very cool. And I mean, you know people are already playing it. It's just if you wanted to make it a slightly more deluxe thing that feels like a game you'd buy on Steam, I think there are very few things you need to do, and that is just make the buttons a bit glossier, tighten up the typographic design, put Deep Purple on it, but not the band Deep Purple, because that's just Tim being a Aussie rock god. Because Australia is currently the world capital of sort of 70s style rock. I seem to have learnt recently with your King Gizzard, the Lizard Wizards, and all of them. False alarm. We saw this one before. This was like a side-scrolling stealth game. New build. No updates on what's new in the build, but let's check it out. Spaceship driving. That could work, yeah. Ah, he's a Kiwi. Ah. Who does... you have Unknown Mortal Orchestra is from... Isn't Unknown Mortal Orchestra from New Zealand? No, Auckland. Yeah, New Zealand. Yeah, I think if you want to theme it as something other than a gambling machine, you kind of need to think about, like, what is that analogous to? You know, getting that number right, getting that button right. And also, putting a sci-fi or a fantasy theme on something like that might be shooting yourself in the foot because it works so well as just an abstract game. So, just trying to jump back to what I felt about this game before. This game is a nice little side-scrolling stealth game, like kind of Mark of the Ninja or something. Mark of the Ninja meets Hitman. And the main problem I had with it last time was, because all of the levels are sort of office buildings, I kind of forgot when I had left one level and gone to another one. So I sort of forgot my little... you know, there's no quest markers, so it was very hard for me to just remember what I was doing or if I'd finished the goal and was meant to be going on to the next thing or whatever. Let's put this sound up a bit so we get that. Really, really lovely animation. It'd be really funny if I could just come in here and, like, drink people's cokes. So we have a very clear, you know, are you in the light, are you in the dark? It's very binary, but that makes sense because it is the core mechanic, right? So we could fade that and we could lerp it between states, but actually it's really important to know whether you can be seen or not. So I think it's okay for that to be a sudden change. You can peek into doors. You can knock on doors. Whoops. You can get beaten up by a security guard. By Paul Blart. There we go. Right. The problem with that in the tutorial is it doesn't really tell me what I should be doing. Oh, okay. I just opened the door. I knocked on it last time. Can't tell if that's a sweat patch on the shirt. Great hiding animation. I think when we last saw this game before, we were talking about how stealth games like Hitman often end up having this slapstick quality to them. And I think it's partly what people expect from the genre, and it's also just... You can't avoid it, really. There's something about stealth going wrong that is just funny in a particular way. But you sort of have to balance that with the fantasy being you are this, you know, cool, edgy, cold, calculating person that knocks people out and steals things. So it's like... You know that your game is going to be funny to people, but you don't want to lean into that too much and, like, have Agent 47 being a literal clown. Oh, this is new, I think. The files from the security wing are missing. Someone bypassed 3 checkpoints without tripping a single alert. You've worked this system longer than anyone. Find out how they did it. It is kind of gunpointy, yeah. Without the kind of hacky stuff. I still need to play Gunpoint. I don't know if it's one of those ones that I own and is on my list of shame. We've got some kind of funky aiming we can do. Right on the old noodle. I think the kind of feeling of it being dark and serious but slightly comedic is already there. It's already pretty good. Look over there. The classic door, yeah. Dishonored, I love Dishonored, but it's one of those games where it just feels like it punishes me so hard for not playing it the way I'm supposed to, and it's like, man, you're giving me a sword, you're giving me a flintlock pistol, I could kill people with rats, and yet everything in this game is being like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I think there's also something in stealth games about, like, the enemies kind of need to be dumb for the game to be legible and playable. And that makes them funny as well, because all of your security guards or henchmen start to turn into, like, these kind of Shakespearean buffoons. And that kind of adds to the humor as well. And you need that to a degree because you need the player to feel okay about, you know, sneaking up on them and doing not very nice things. Right? So you sort of need to dehumanize the characters or make them just feel comical in some way. I know that makes... The way I'm describing it makes me sound like a psychopath, but this is all important stuff into that genre, and it's what makes games in that genre work. Yeah, the enemy audio is great. It's already really good. And you've got a nice sort of fidelity of pixel art where it's then okay to have realistic sound effects. Because I think if you have really grainy pixel art and you put sort of real voiceover on or sound effects that aren't bit crushed, it starts to feel a bit strange. But this is like quite high fidelity, so... Yeah, Seamus, that's kind of why I liked Deathloop so much, because Deathloop has all of the stealth stuff with really stupid, forgetful enemies, and then when you fail at the stealth and you want to just go guns blazing, the whole loop of Deathloop makes it very okay to do that. It feels much less like it's punishing you for breaking stealth and much more like breaking stealth and going guns blazing for a little bit is a part of the game. Lots of people didn't like Deathloop. They were like, oh, this is Arcane's least imsimmy game, but I really like the way that the whole game is structured to make it so that you can play it as a stealth game for 10 minutes and then play it as a FPS for 10 minutes and then, you know, it's very kind of flexible, and I like that. Have I actually stilled the files I have? Yeah. Maybe we could have a tick up here. I can't tell if that's a tick, if I've actually done that or not. This is the problem I had last time. It's partly because I've got streamer brain and I'm talking a lot. But I think just stick a little Unicode tick in the string. knocking someone out and then just walking like a cool guy is funny. The run is funny because it's sort of a bit of a prance. You know? This is the run that you see someone do in like a Pink Panther animation. Or like, yeah, one of those little intro sequences on, or like those little cartoon intro sequences on a 1960s spy film. That's the run someone would do in one of those. We found fragments of legal documents in the recycle buffer. Pull the originals from the records floor before they vanish completely. Find a way to the top floor. Watch out, there are some highly trained agents walking security in that area. Okay. One last level. I'm going to get on to the next one. I've got a hard stop. Got a hard stop in 45. Been in paperwork hell all morning here because we're trying to move house. Don't know if anyone else has tried to get a rental property while being self-employed. Fun times. They're just like, I don't trust you. I don't think you're a real person. It's been, I'm in paperwork hell. It'll be alright. At least there's video games where I can strangle people. The drag button is the same as the beat up button, so I just ran up to one guy and then just picked his friend up right next to him. Ah. Tough cookie. Interesting. I think I've got a bug here. Because I came out of the door and then it wouldn't let me press anything that time. Yeah, Mark of the Ninja was my reference point as well for this one. I really like the way that you've made it feel like a real world, despite the mechanics being quite a simple set of interactions that you do over and over again. It feels like a real place. The environment isn't too confusing, because that's always the balance. When you try and, like, go, okay, this is going to be a real place in the real world, you hit a load of issues of, like, okay, how do we make it varied enough? How do we make sure that all of the clutter items don't become, like, distracting to the point that you don't know what's relevant and what's not? And that's not really happening. I think that's because you've got these really good contextual tooltips. Don't seem to be able to beat those guys without some sort of weapon, so we'll come back there later. I think that's the idea. I think we're supposed to come back to that area once we've picked up some sort of weapon. Or just not fight the agents, I guess. Ah, my favourite room. I love this room. This is where I come and listen to the wall. Yeah, boy. In you go. Do I have to steal the documents? Can't I just go home? Don't need to fight them. Okay. So this guy we're just trying to creep past. I think that computer might be the target. Okay. All these Blues Brothers everywhere. It's feeling good. I think to really kind of... So what I would do with this, in terms of thinking... You've got the core of the game here. The core is great. The mechanics feel great. The art style is good. The visual design of it is very good. I think the contextual tooltips of which button you can press in which scenario are very, very helpful, because I never felt confused about whether an item in the environment was interactive or not. And I think maybe you could outline them with a line sometimes when it's showing you which thing is highlighted, because sometimes there's things like the microwave and stuff and I wasn't totally sure if what that button corresponded to, but it's very solid. So what I would do next is, okay, I think what I want from this as a player is for it to not just be different arrangements of office blocks every single time. And I want to look at some levels. If you think of, like, most stealth games have this, I think Hitman has this. You look at certain levels when you start the level and you go, oh shit. And I think you want something that can do that, you know, like a Mardi Gras, or just something that breaks the format after you've been used to sneaking around in buildings. So you need like a strategy for how do you vary the content in this game? How do you get 5 levels in and then throw the player a curveball where they look at it and go, huh? And you can do that just by having the levels laid out differently. But if you can do that in a way that feels thematic as well, then you'll be onto a real winner. So I would try and plan out your level progression in the abstract first, of like, okay, when we get to level 5, we want to do a level where there's actually like some weird twist on the mechanics, like there's a really long hallway with loads of people in it, or there's people that you're not allowed to knock out, or there's some sort of break in the rules, and you come up with all of these mechanical things you want to do, and then you start to map them onto like real world situations which could provide a visible change, right? So this is what I'm saying might seem super obvious, because this is a classic video games thing of like, oh, we're going to the fire castle now. The floor is made of lava, right? You map on a change in the mechanics to a change in the environment, and that provides the player with some visual variety so that the adventure that their character is going through feels varied, but it also explains and makes kind of intuitive the changes in the mechanics that you're actually doing. So if you suddenly went to like, oh, we're doing a hotel now, there's very, very long hallways, and there's sections where there's nowhere to hide, and there's people that you can't strangle or something like that. Whatever it is, I think you're going to need a way to vary the scenario so it doesn't just feel like office block over office block all the time. Or the other route, which might be a cheaper constraint as an indie dev, would be to think of very strange, unusual variations of things that can happen in an office block, right? So you might have an office block where there is a sit-in protest and people are on strike, or an office block where a Christmas party is happening or something like that. That could be another direction to think about it. I think there is there's another game dev YouTuber that is making a roguelike in an office. Let me see if I can... This one, Danum. And I think one of the problems their game has, and I haven't talked about this or done a video about it, I think I might have mentioned it on a stream, is that the office setting doesn't give you very clear progression of like how things in the game escalate, right? So when you do a game in a modern realistic setting, the way that they handle that problem in something like Hitman is they go to all of these different glamorous locations. It's the same approach to place and variety that you have in a Bond movie. It's like, okay, first we're in a luxurious mansion, now we're at a racetrack, now we're at a Mardi Gras festival, and it's like big sweeping changes. And those things are easier to do in a AAA context because you can do all of this art variation. I think if you want to stick to the constraint of it being in office blocks like they're doing here, you need some way to ramp that up or have silly things happen in the office so that you've got some sort of like thematic variation that then leads to different mechanics. You know, okay, you're breaking into a building while it's on fire, or you're breaking into a building while a protest is going on, or just some sort of change in what kind of building it is or who's in it and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Labs and hotels. Yeah, that feels like a natural progression because you're doing, it seems like you're doing it, at the moment the story seems to be leaning towards corporate espionage, right? So labs and hotels make sense. Conferences, maybe, like business conferences. That could be cool. Yeah, let's see what else is on the list. That false alarm is feeling very, very good. It's at that stage of development now where the questions are less about the core game and more about like how do you make a longer game out of this and how do you make sure it doesn't get stale, because it's a neat little set of things already. Okay, let's check out Jill's. We've got a new Jill prototype, which is not a sprites. Orb Magi. That's like Ice Baby, but the wizard version. Dum 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 dum. Orb Magi. Let's check it out. Ah, it's the pinball game, of course. It's a game about orbs. That makes sense. Great name. Great name for a sort of... We're doing Magical Girl Pinball. What are my buttons? Orb Magi. Left, right, AD. Okay. Launcher D. Left and right trigger phone. Okay, we'll do it with the controller because we have triggers to nudge. We have a right button and left button to flip and to launch. I feel like doing if you're making this for the gamepad, it would be really fun to do the launcher with the right stick. So you pull it back and let go of it like that, and it goes ping, and it feels like you're genuinely pinging a thing. You know, whenever you've got a physical thing that maps on, because we do that with triggers already, right? Like a trigger of a gun and a trigger of a joypad. But you've got a thing here that can go pull back and ping. So that could be the most satisfying thing in the world. I mean, the pinger already feels pretty nice. You hold it down and the ball kind of disappears. That's great. It's like, what if pinball was Magical Girl Downwell? It's looking great. We've got pick from 3. You know what, Jill? This is the first time in a long time that I've been excited to see one of these screens. People are so tired of them, but I'm like, okay, one of these in pinball, great. Typography is nice and clear. Shoot sparkling stars while active. Place a curse upon your enemies, inflicting damage over time. Spawn ghost orbs when hitting a flipper. Okay, so I wasn't totally clear that the little characters floating around were enemies per se, but they are giving me points, so that makes sense now. Ah, so stuff pings off and hits the... Oh my goodness. It's like... It's Kawaii Vampire Survivors pinball. I can see that this is one of those games that is sort of... I imagine you've spent a lot of time on this already, but I can imagine you also going into a kind of fugue state and the game almost designing itself. It feels like one of those things where all of the elements of it just naturally fit together so neatly that it's like, yeah, this all makes sense. I think one small potential problem is when we come back from picking the upgrade, we might not know where the ball is. So it's there. Do we get like a little bit of a pause and the time gradually speeds up as we come out of the upgrade, or is it very sudden? Yeah, you kind of come back immediately. I think it would be nice to just not go from totally paused to totally in real time at that stage, so that we get to like reorient, like maybe flash the ball again as like a quick reminder of where it is. It's great. And I think we were talking with the Cosmic dev about this, the Planet Popper game, in the last one of these streams. But these kind of two-color games are a really good use case for having palettes as unlockables. Like, you could have all of these different sets of colors where it's like, okay, I've got this palette where the background is sort of dim purple and the front cover is that mint color that's on her top, and then the ball is orange in this context. Or, you know, you can unlock all of these things, and that's like a relatively simple way of having lots of content for players to unlock or buy that doesn't have any kind of mechanical implications for the rest of the game, but is very kind of satisfying for people to find. And this seems like another game where you could do that. You use this as like the base aesthetic, and then you have ways to gradually unlock stuff. Thanks for the tip, Mario. It's great. Yeah, I could totally see some of those upgrades adding table components as well. That would be really satisfying. That's so good. If you have any multi-ball mechanics as well, it would be great to have upgrades or relics that modify the multi-balls. Like, when you get multi-ball, this thing happens. Because multi-ball, unlocking a multi-ball mechanic is usually the most exciting thing on a pinball table. It just changes how it feels to play so much, to go from having one ball, which is like a very binary, are you alive or not, to all of these chances, and you're just sort of like randomly whacking stuff. So having that, and then having a way of augmenting it with upgrades and stuff, could be very cool. Not really thinking about which upgrade to choose. I love these enemies. They're sort of like all different. They kind of feel like slightly Lovecraftian alien type things, but rendered in a way that doesn't make them really gross. We've got like evil owls at the bottom, and we've got octopus, and then we've got some slightly stranger looking things. I love the glitch effect when you hit the enemies as well. It's very controlled. It's like you're not going kind of totally crazy, because the grey on grey aesthetic is quite subtle, and that means that you sort of have to be careful with how much you flash other things, because you can draw attention very, very easily because the whole game is so muted. You've got this purple state on enemies for when you've hit them once and need to hit them again, I think. Yeah, there's like a kind of some sort of invisible health thing that is showing them as purple after you've whacked them. Your upgrades are called frills. I quite like that. A magic is how many balls you've got. I got it. Love that glitch effect on the enemies. Really nice. There's nothing else to hit up here. I've hit them all. Trying to get over in that corner. That's pretty neat as well. You have to leave the area to get it to fill up again. It would be good if we got an enemy refill when you get into that that little launcher in the corner. It would be nice if that restocked the enemies at the top as well. Because otherwise you have to deliberately exit the area, which is fine, but that's like a unusual little skill shot, so it would be nice to reward the player for doing that by giving them more goobers to zap. Huh. Does the speed of the ball affect the damage on the enemies as well? Because that feels like a nice crossover of things. So I can see there's a speed counter at the top. Soundtrack's great as well. Sort of going between the very electronic sparkly bit and the horn section and everything. It's very, very anime soundtrack, which is hard to do. I tried to do one of those earlier in the year, like a kind of Pokemon theme type. Pokemon Metal, and even that was very difficult. You have to do so many like weird changes and stuff to make that kind of music work. I'm knocking this guy out of the corner. He's gradually moving down. There's some little kind of secrets in the corners of the table. I don't know if I triggered that last time when I did it by accident and didn't realise, but yeah. Some guys wedged in there that you have to like knock down and get out. The sound for when you bash something and move it is really nice as well. Come on, out you come. Out you come. Uh-oh. Got stuck. Got stuck in the secret bonk corner. Yeah, I would love to see this lean into... So they have this thing with Hearthstone where one of the design principles with Hearthstone is anything that you couldn't do with physical cards, they lean really hard into. So like locking the position of the cards in your hand so that left and right has a meaning, generating random cards you don't own, all of that stuff. And I would love to see a few things in this game where you really lean into that of like what's something you couldn't do with a real ball, you know? So you could have multi-ball but have an approach to it that you just couldn't do on a real table. Like you hit the ball out of a particular thing and it spawns others in the air and they like drop down or something like that. Like I don't know what it is, but just following that principle of like, okay, we've got it feeling like a pretty good pinball table, but it's Magic, so what's some stuff that we could do that you just couldn't actually do on a real pinball table? We got that to a certain amount with the hitting enemies and the things flying out, but I think you could follow that approach with everything, you know? It's great. It's feeling pretty good. This is also like a game where it feels like this could be released as just a very small game that people would probably get quite a lot of value out of, or you could go full hog, loads of unlockables, different tables, maybe not different tables, maybe a table that you build as you play or whatever. And you could kind of make this work either way. It can stay as a small game or it could be a big game. I would recommend trying to do a commercial release of this as a small game and then doing a sequel that is like 5 times the size, bells and whistles, a million upgrades and unlocks type thing. You know, do like a micro version of it first and then do like the deluxe version that has loads of stuff in it. I think it works in both of those contexts. But yeah, there's no, the upgrades are just kind of, I'm clicking on a random one and that's because I know it's only those 3 anyway, so I'm going to get them all, so I'm not really thinking about what they do or which one to pick. Ah! Sorry if my mic is making weird noises. It's because of it's been possessed by a magical orb. Really like the little soft explosions as well. Everything feels appropriately impactful but still soft. It's very crispy. This game has a very crispy game feel. Feeling pretty good. That's not bad for a game that was started, what, a few weeks ago? Don't know what those do. I'm just going to see what they do. Whoa! The CRT is so CRT now. Yeah, this is not an old game. So Jill kind of does a bit of everything and does like pixel art and music and stuff. And it feels like, if you compare this to Spritewood, it's like you're kind of still feeling out what types of games you want to make from a gameplay perspective, in terms of like what you like to design and engineer and stuff like that. But then the audio visual element, it's like you can totally see that they're the same person, like in terms of the sensibilities of what this has. A lot of the same stuff going on as Spritewood, of like merging together things that are cute with things that are a little bit creepy and spooky. And I think it just makes me want to encourage people, if you think of yourself mainly as a programmer who makes games and you don't really think very hard about the audio visual side of stuff, just get into it. The sooner you get into it as a hobby, making your own art, making your own sound, whatever it is, the sooner you'll find your thing. Because you can use assets and stuff like that, that's totally fine, but I think fundamentally you have to accept that a video game is called a video game because it's something that people look at and play, and that means that those things matter, and that means that like the character of what you make is going to be like the product of what art you use or how you make your stuff. And the reason why this game looks so coherent is because Jill's done everything, and it's all a product of the same person's taste, and like you can do that with asset packs as well, but you have to think about what do those assets do for you. Like Tim's games are a good example, right? Of you're using asset packs in a way that is very comical and works very well with the assets that you're using, and that's good. Like again, just you're making your own game. That means you're the creative director, so whether you make your own art and sound or you find it elsewhere doesn't really matter, but it does need to all add up to a package where people look at it and they go, yeah, I want to play that. I think asset packs can work very well for silly games, because it doesn't kind of matter so much if things feel a bit silly and don't line up very well. The problem with a lot of asset packs is they give you like a some AAA or Blizzard looking art asset, and then you don't have all the animations and stuff that you need to actually make a game of that particular quality. We all have an art style called programmer art. The trick is do you come back and gradually make your programmer art better over time until it no longer looks like program art? That's what I do. It's very cool. Yeah, you used a tile set, but it's a tile set that goes with everything else that you used as well, that is my recommendation when it comes to using art assets. Actually, is like use art assets that are in a medium and a style that you could modify yourself. Because unless you're doing the kind of the Kyoto anomaly thing of just getting a set of assets and going, right, this is the game, we're not making anything else, you're going to have to modify stuff or make something from scratch that matches the asset style at some point. So I think one of the best ways of using assets is like, you go, okay, I've got my own little style that I can sort of do and it's okay, and this person is making pixel art or low poly art in a style I could emulate and adapt to. So you're kind of taking things and putting them together from a mixture of stuff you can do yourself and stuff someone else has done, rather than being like, oh, I'm going to get these hyper realistic assets from the Unreal store and I'm kind of screwed if something that I need is not in this pack because I cannot make things that look like this. I think that's not a great place to leave yourself in, because then you're stuck. And if you make the active decision to go, I'm building a game around these assets and I'm not going to ever use anything else, then fine, but you need to be like conscious of how you're approaching that. And yeah, that's great. Pinball 2000. The song by Pulp. Thank you for joining today. 66 viewers. Not bad. Hello, 66 viewers. I do two types of stream like this. So if you're new to the channel, just to explain, some people have asked how they can get their games play tested. I do two types of stream. One of them is Indies Under the Knife. Jump scare alert. Indies Under the Knife happens every Thursday. You can submit games to it at the link that is on the screen. So I just want to draw your attention to something. If at any point during the stream you said, how can I submit a game? How can I have my game playtested? The entire time you've had this text in the bottom telling you how. And that is where those games go to. Indies Under the Knife is every Thursday. We've also got what's happening today. Every other Wednesday, the Discord members playtest, okay? This is me being a doctor, helping people with their games. This is me being a shouty man, yelling at people that are part of our Discord and support me on Patreon. They're different things. This is like for anyone. The queue is quite long. I'll be honest. It's got more than 100 games in the queue at the moment. I'm thinking about ways to approach that in the new year. But if you want to jump the queue and you want to be part of this fortnightly community playtesting, then you just need to support the channel via Patreon, and then you get in the queue for that, which only has 4 or 5 games in it every fortnight. No matter how much I bully people. I always worry we're going to have too many games. And then everyone's like, no, I'm not ready. The other thing I think I'm going to do... Oh, that's my selfie for my tenancy application. The other thing I think I'm going to do, I might start doing this in January, I'm going to do maybe more regular but shorter streams and pick games off the backlog at random. So what I might start doing is doing Indies Under the Knife like 3 times a week or 2 times a week, and just picking a number randomly off the list and playing that game. Because at the moment I have to go through this big old spreadsheet of all of the games that have been submitted in the last year or so. Let me just see if I can get it up, and if I can get it up in an anonymized way. Just hiding the stuff you're not supposed to see. There we go. The nuclear launch codes. Hidden the nuclear launch code. So this is the Indies Under the Knife waiting list, right? Let's scroll down. Has it got more than 100? It's got... it's got nearly 200 in it. And what I currently do is I go through this and I pick out games based on a theme. So, you know, tomorrow we're looking at a couple of different post-apocalyptic games. That is quite time consuming. It takes quite a lot of effort. So I think what I might start doing in 2026 is just picking a few games at random off this and like playing for an hour, and then doing that like a few times a week. So instead of getting through like 2, 3, 4 games a week and I have to pick them out by hand, we do it randomly, and maybe I get through 6 to 8 games a week, maybe even 10. We'll have kind of review that in the new year. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking with that. So if you want to submit your game to this, the waiting list is very long, but indiegameclinic.com for that. And if you want to jump the queue, then join the Discord via Patreon. Most of the people in the chat are folks from our Discord. And the benefit of that as well, the benefit of being one of the supporters, is you can have your game on here more than once. Because I just look at whatever's been submitted. Whereas for Indies Under the Knife, with 200 games in the waiting list, I only look at the games once. And it's all focused on work in progress. It's all focused on games that haven't been released yet. I'm not here to market your game for you if you have already released it and are asking people for money. This is a design channel. We play games, we talk about the design of them, what could be made better. And that means that I tend to limit what I do here to games that have not been released yet, at least on these two main streams. So thank you for joining. Hope you got all the information you need. And good luck with whatever you're working on this week. Folks in the chat, hope you have a good week. Can someone request a playtest of a multiplayer game? Sometimes. I mean, I don't have a very set up way of doing that. We have a few people that are making multiplayer games in the Discord, and that is a good place to organize that sort of thing. And I'm happy to jump on board with that kind of thing and stream it if people want to. But I wouldn't do that through the normal Indies Under the Knife thing because it's just too time consuming. So, but very much up for doing multiplayer playtests within the Discord as like a community fun day thing. And I'm still waiting to do that with Lawyer, which is that Howl's Moving Castle MMO type thing we saw the other week. So yeah, just need to work out a workflow for that because I think there's a few people in our community that would be up for doing that. So actually, I'm going to go and chase that up now before I move on to do the rest of my day. Right, thanks folks. I'm going to end